Experience equals perception. Your event is your brand in action, and every detail tells a story. If your event isn't memorable, connected, and aligned to your goals, it's a missed opportunity to deepen loyalty and accelerate pipeline. Hi there, I'm Carrie Curran, B2B Revenue Growth Executive Advisor, industry analyst, and host of Revenue Boost, a marketing podcast. Every episode, I sit down with top experts to bring you actionable strategies to drive real results. If you're serious about growth, hit subscribe and stay ahead of your competition today. In Your Brand in Real Life, Event Strategies for Lasting Brand and Revenue Impact, I sit down with Emily Olson. She's the president and executive producer at Arrow Event Management. With over 2 decades of experience producing brand launches, executive summits, and global conferences, Emily breaks down exactly what it takes to turn a live event into a high ROI marketing channel. Be sure to stay tuned to the end, where Emily shares how homegrown talent shows became one of the most surprising and most effective building tools in her event playbook. Let's go. So welcome, Emily. Please share your background and expertise.
Thanks, Carrie. I'm Emily Olson, president and executive producer at Arrow Event Management. I have been producing events for almost 25 years, and I have, I think, done everything and anything and everything at this point, from conferences, galas, brand launches, road shows. I've worked all over the US. I've worked internationally. And I'm really excited to be here with you today to talk about events and brand strategy.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Emily. I'm very excited to have you on today. I know we first met when you were producing some events for my agency many years ago, and you definitely raised the bar when it comes to such a polished and valuable experience for guests. So I'm excited to kind of dive in and hear about your recommendations. Okay. So when you typically first start speaking with somebody who's thinking they want to do an event for their company, how do you even get started with ideating on what it's going to look like or how they should approach it?
That's a great question. We start by understanding the goal of the event. Why are they hosting this event? Who are they trying to reach? How are they measuring success? What do they want their attendees to think, feel, and do? That's always how we start the conversation. And then from there, my team puts together a strategy and helps them figure out how to achieve those goals.
So talk about your typical audience for your events and how that kind of plays into what the strategy looks like and how that builds into the plan for the event.
So many of our audiences are different. It almost feels like a unique audience for every single event. Sometimes it's an internal audience. Sometimes it's B2B, B2C. I did an event this week that was sports related. So they're looking at, fans of women's sports. The fan base changes for every single event. So we really need to, there isn't a template. Every single event, you need to look at what are the goals for this event and how do we reach this specific audience.
Excellent. And so how do you, what are some of your, the research that you do for the audiences and you and your team come up with? What goes into coming up with those ideas?
Yeah, we look at who they are, what has been done before. Maybe this organization has hosted this event before. What has worked? What hasn't worked? What has been amiss? In a lot of cases, we'll put together different personas and walk through, persona A, this is their experience at the event. Persona B, they're having a different experience. And so we walk through that way to figure out how best to reach each, audience member, audience category.
That's great. And so I know you talked about before when we talked about trying to make that event feel special for
Mhm.
each audience member or attendee. Can you go a bit further of like what are some of the examples of things that your team has come up with or things that have worked well for making that a really unique experience? I think you said walking away with memories from the experience.
Walking away with memories. You want to think about what I've said. What do you want them to think, feel, and do?
Mm-hmm.
What can we, especially now, I think post COVID, we were online and it was kind of we were all in survival mode. We were doing what we
Yes.
needed to do, and that really transformed the virtual experience where people
Mm-hmm.
expected really to be engaged through every step of the process. And I think generally we've really moved away from virtual. I still see virtual, I still see hybrid, but
Mm-hmm.
mostly we've moved away from the virtual experience, but we've taken from that people really want to be engaged through every touch point. They want this event to they want unique experiences. They want this event to be bigger, better, more memorable. And I don't mean bigger size wise. I mean in terms of something they can post on Instagram that
Mm-hmm.
that you haven't seen at an event before. Everyone wants to be the first one to do something. So anytime we can create a really unique experience that drives attendees to think, feel, and do the things we have established at the beginning, that's a
Mm-hmm.
win. That's how we create the magic.
I love that. It is so important, especially as you said, in the era of Instagram where, kind of recording that and promoting that on that event on social almost becomes as important as the actual experience. One of the things I loved about, and one of the examples you gave me is you took over a giant department store and made that a really kind of interactive experience with creative foods. So talk about kind of how those ideas kind of came to life. First, like from the, how did you and your team come up with the idea and how did you make it happen?
We did this. It was a store that was in the industry of my client. So the environment was fitting to the client, to their audience, and
Mhm.
it created a really nice foundation for us to build on. So for that event, the goals were to drive, reinforce a community feel. So we pulled in vendors from the community. We had
Mhm.
food trucks. We had they didn't have trucks, but they had food stations. We had, I think,
Mhm.
6 different restaurants and caterers in there from the local community. We tapped into the experiences that were already in the store and then brought in our own to help, again, going back to those initial goals, um,
Yeah.
connecting people to the client, to the experience, and built on what was in the store and what we wanted their experience to be on site.
Yeah, I love that. And I know that's not always applicable to maybe a B2B and more educational or networking focused event, but it's such a great example of kind of thinking outside of the box, right? You could have done it in a hotel ballroom, you could have done it in a park, but bringing that integrated opportunity of a environment that aligns with the client and their goals, but also bringing in the food truck and the community, I think is just so creative. I love
Yeah,
it.
it was really fun. And to kind of add on to something you just said, one of my favorite things, I've been doing this for almost 25 years. One of my favorite parts of my event is creating an event venue that isn't typically a venue. So in
Yeah.
this case, it was a retail store. They
Hmm.
didn't have any license or permitting to host events, so it created, really unique and challenging opportunities
Yeah.
to determine how to permit a retail store for an event that was private and serving
Hmm.
alcohol. It was
Yeah.
really an interesting experience and one of my favorite parts of my job.
Yeah, yeah, the logistical challenges that are always behind the scenes, but that's and it's an important aspect to making it such a unique event. So talk about like in that in when you're kind of taking that strategy and perspective of doing something unique, making the venue unique. How do you kind of ideate when it's a more business to business or networking type of event? I know we talked about you need space for networking, for meals, for breakout sessions, but how do you kind of make that all come together to make it memorable?
In terms of the networking piece of it.
Or just making the venue, you
Uh,
know, like making maybe a hotel ballroom or space that's not as uniquely set up as a retail store.
I mean, I think it's about having interactive moments, whether it's
Mhm.
interactive with technology
Mhm.
or even interactive between attendees. I like to create moments of shared experiences. So that could be hands-on workshop. It could be a tasting stations, a creative lounge, even sometimes putting, like some kind of a ribbon on their name badge that says "Ask me about" or gives them a category. It's just an easy way to help people connect. And
Mhm.
I think, whether you're in a hotel ballroom or a retail store or you've created, something out of nothing, creating these
Mhm.
interactive moments helps create human experience and uh, bring the moment to life.
Hey everyone, it's me, Carrie Curran. If you're a B2B company that sells to marketers, whether you're an agency, MarTech, or AdTech, and your revenue is either flattening, declining, or just not growing fast enough, I can help. I've spent my entire career selling, marketing, and servicing marketers, so I know firsthand the challenges they face, the buying decisions they make, and what actually moves the needle. The truth is, most marketing strategies aren't built for revenue growth, but mine are. As your fractional chief growth officer, I'll bring revenue focused marketing strategies designed specifically for selling to marketers, deep expertise in agency, MarTech, and ad tech buying behaviors, modern go to market strategies that include everything from brand awareness to driving loyalty and retention, and a track record of doubling and even tripling revenue for B2B companies just like yours. So if you're tired of your stagnant results and you're ready to build a marketing engine that actually drives revenue, let's talk. Visit revenuebasedmarketing.com or connect with me on LinkedIn to schedule a consultation. Together, let's build a smarter, more profitable path forward. RBMA, Revenue Based Marketing Advisors, where revenue-based marketing that works. Yeah, no, I think I love that. And I like the creating kind of ways to foster those conversations, because I know that's always one of the biggest challenges as well of, how do you help people start talking to each other and engaging with each other? And so I think I love that you have those kind of plans in place and strategies. And so what when you're working with your B2B clients and or other business, and branding is such an important part of the event as well, like how do you come up with ways for them to help promote their brand and what's important to them or what they're all about?
I mean, at this stage, events are so much more than logistics. Every
Yeah.
event is an opportunity for, I'll call it experiential brand storytelling. It's
Yeah.
um the I'll say experience equals perception. So if someone attends your event, the experience they have is your brand in action. So whatever you're doing, however people are experiencing your brand in the
Mhm.
moment of the event is their takeaway of what your brand is. So um, I think what I'll say is brands are now extending the impact of events across
Mhm.
time. So it's not just getting to the event and having that moment, but it's It's the pre-event content, it's on-site community building, it's post-event amplification. You really have to think about all of these different touch points and how you can leverage the event experience into so much more than just your moment on site.
Yeah, yeah. No, I love that, and I like the pre and post event is so important as well. What
Yeah.
are some of the ways you've helped your clients to make sure they're amplifying that?
Sometimes just reminding them how important those pieces are. It's
Yeah.
really easy to say, okay, I'm in charge of this event. Let's focus on this event. We really need to take a step back and look at events as a whole. Events are not a standalone moment. So you do need to take a look at the whole brand ecosystem and be thoughtful and strategic about even just know before you go emails, but whether you're sharing a mailing list with partners, and what your social plan is before, during, after. Do you have collaborations with partners? I think stepping back and thinking about the bigger picture, the whole brand ecosystem, with the event being a piece of it and not the whole
Hmm.
thing, is
Hmm.
really important.
Yeah, no, it's that's so important, and I think it alludes that your brand is more, to your point, than what's on site, and what people are seeing. And the pre-event email, for example, is so incredibly important. One
Mhm.
of the things that I valued so much when we were working together is the attention to detail, and how important that is for the attendees experience. I was telling you, like, every time I go to an event and there's absolutely no parking and nobody really gave a heads up about that,
Yeah.
or there's no name tags. Or even, actually, I've been to a couple events recently where the hosts, smaller events, but the hosts don't even take a moment to explain who they are and what they
Right.
do. They kind of just dive into the networking. And so I'd love your attention to detail, and it's just so incredibly important as part of that I think not everyone thinks about.
Right. And there are so many details. And I
So
love
many.
this. This is how I am as a human. I'm like that that person who, I've got everything I do in my life is in an Excel spreadsheet. So it's how my brain works, and why I'm so well suited for this job.
Yeah. No, definitely. Like I said, every time I there's missed details, I cringe and think about
Yeah.
how if you were in charge, it wouldn't have
Oh.
happened. But so I know. So when you're working, one of the things with, and when you worked with us and other kind of events, sponsorships are important for your clients, or to help make the event more bigger, expand their budget and expand their network and the value they're bringing to the customers. But it's kind of coming up with those packages and creative
Mm.
ways to stand out. Like, how do you help your clients kind of come up with packages for their sponsors to make it a valuable experience for them as well?
Yeah, I think what we were just talking about,
Hmm.
that people are now looking for engagement at every step. This
Hmm.
extends very much into sponsorship. So this is not about putting a logo on a tote bag anymore. I mean, it
Yeah.
is, that's important, but people want immersive, interactive, branded
Hmm.
activations. They want thought leadership opportunities, like speaking roles, roundtables,
Hmm.
and even something we're seeing a lot of are like really curated experiences, looking at lounges, wellness zones, spaces where they can try new tech, uh,
Hmm.
even like introverted spaces. We're talking about all these ways
Yeah.
to connect,
Yeah.
but sometimes people want a space to disconnect. There's
Yeah.
so many
I like that.
opportunities
Hmm.
for relevant sponsorships, but it's so important to think about how can we how can we make this 3D? How can we connect people to an experience? And it's
Mhm.
not just about logo placement anymore.
Yeah, I agree. And especially when they're investing in your event or your client's event, making sure that they get what they need out of it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things I've seen becoming a trend is puppies at the booth to draw
Love it.
booth
I'm
traffic.
in. Sign me up for the puppy booth.
Well, the first time I saw it, I could not believe it, but they partnered with a local shelter, and the shelter brought, I think,
Yeah.
three rescue puppies. And then I've started to see that pop up at more places. And I
Yeah.
think, yeah, like whoever thought of that first, like what a unique way to get that booth traffic so you can
Yeah.
start those conversations, or that special like happy hour or breakout.
Yeah.
But yeah, are there
Sign me
any
up.
other?
Sign
Yeah.
me up for the conference that has a session that's yoga with either a goat, some puppies, some kitties. Like I'm open to the type of animal, but I will be at that session.
Excellent. Yeah, I know. Puppy yoga would be amazing.
Yeah.
Are there other kind of unique things that you've seen from that to help foster more networking?
Uh, yeah. I mean, I think kind of those things I just touched on in
Yeah.
terms of sponsorship opportunities. I think people are really focused um, on anything with a purpose. People want to
Yeah.
feel like the world is insane right now. People want to feel connected to values and purpose. At literally, there's a place for this, I think, at any conference,
Yeah.
almost any conference. I think people are looking for um, some kind of space with like DEI,
Hmm.
sustainability, mental health, community building, like any of these types of topics, they're not side conversations anymore. Like this is front and center, and I'm seeing it more and more at every event I do. These have become front and center.
Yeah. And I value that so much too, because for me, the goal to go to conferences, in addition to learning something, really is to make new contacts and new relationships. And I think,
Mm-hmm.
as we're seeing branding become increasingly important, as we're seeing relationships play a stronger role in uh, any B2B buying cycle or marketing, direct to consumer, also like getting to know your brand, who you stand for,
Yep.
what your values are, and your unique, what you do for your customers, what you're solving, the unique value prop, and fostering that kind of community building space
Yep.
is so critical.
Yep.
Yeah. And so you'd shared, I had asked you when we were kind of prepping if there were examples of things that you thought would flop in your experience, but actually turned into great ideas. So tell us some of those, or like just kind of crazy
Yeah.
things that you went ahead with and turned out better than you expected.
Absolutely. The answer to this one is so easy, and it is homegrown entertainment, like an internal event that does essentially a talent show featuring their own employees. And the first time I did this was for an electric company that was hosting its 100th anniversary, and they had a pretty large campus. So we did a sort of festival experience for them on site, and they wanted to do um, homegrown entertainment. And
Love it.
it was so, I was so cringe when I heard this. I hated every second of it until we got there and we watched these people perform, and they were so good. It was so much fun. Everybody came to watch. People, first of all, just wanted to support their coworkers, but it's so fun to know that these people you spend your lives with, or at least years, they have these talents. Did you know that so and so's in a band? Wow, he can really sing. Like it was so, so, so cool and fun and entertaining and supportive and driven. by like talent and love for your coworkers. It was really, really cool. And then I did it again later for a major retail brand that was doing a leadership conference. So this was like their top 1,200 executives. We were in Las Vegas for a week. And so then we pitched this idea because I saw it worked. We loved it. And so the executives from this company got up and did a talent show, and it killed. Like, it was amazing. And I'm officially converted huge fan of an internal event talent show. Love it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, talk about community building, right? You're kind of letting
Absolutely.
down the airs of the executive team and letting them get up and show their stuff and or embarrass themselves. Really, sure.
I mean,
Creates.
honestly, nobody did. It was everybody
Yeah.
was so good and so talented. It was really fun.
Amazing. I'm starting to think about what
What your talent would be.
would be. I'll have to start thinking about that in case I'm ever in one of those events.
I like can draft an Excel spreadsheet faster than anyone in town.
Amazing. So any like just advice, like high level of, you've given a lot of examples, but just advice about events that people often miss?
Yeah, I think it's right back to where we started this conversation, Carrie. I think it's, how do you start the planning is you set your goals.
Yeah.
And those, put them on a Post-it and stick that next to your screen. That your goals for the event should be driving every step along the way. And I think that it's actually easy to get off track because producing events is really, it's hard. It's tedious. It's really detail oriented. Nobody ever gets you what you need in time to get it done. You're herding cats. And sometimes you just get an answer. So you go with it because it's an answer, but you need to check that Post-it that you've got next to your screen. Is this in line with our goals? Is this supporting what we want to do with this event? I think that is so important. And we sometimes get away from that.
Yeah, I can see that because there's, the shiny objects or the unique things, or the vendor throws something new and you're like, that sounds cool, but wait, no, I appreciate that. That's really good advice. So, for someone who's listening today and they're thinking this is amazing, but budgets are tight these days. Do I really need events? Like, what's your advice?
I think that in-person events specifically help people connect with your brand. It lets people see, feel, engage with your brand in a way that, in theory, if you're doing all these things correctly, supports your goals, in theory, accelerates your sales cycle because you're there, you're seeing how it works. Maybe you've got a panel up there of customers, so you're hearing testimonials. Like, I think having in-person events is the most important thing. And I'm biased, but there's statistics out there that demonstrate why, if your budget is tight, cutting your event is not the right answer.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, to your point, it ties to not just opportunities to find new customers, but retain your existing customers and strengthening that loyalty and that relationship. So I love all of your advice, Emily. This has been really, I really enjoyed our conversation. So for people listening that want to get in touch with you and learn more about the events that you run, how do people find you?
You can check out our website, arrow-events.com, ARROW-EVENTS.com. Or you can email us at experience@arrow-events.com.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Emily. Good luck with all of your upcoming events, and I can't wait to hear about your next great one. So thank you.
Thanks, Carrie. This was so much fun.
Thanks for tuning in to Revenue Boost, a marketing podcast. If you enjoyed this episode with Emily Olson, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. It helps more growth-minded marketers like you discover the show. And if you're planning an event soon, don't forget, your brand isn't just what you say, it's what they experience. Make it memorable. For more insights, visit revenuebasedmarketing.com or connect with me, Carrie Curran, on LinkedIn. We'll see you next time.